Today we're going to be talking about warming up, expressing, and refreshing, because you can get very tired singing in a large group, and I'm very aware of that. So let's get started. All right, so first we're going to take a look. This is kind of an outline what we're going to look at today. We're going to take a quick look at our amazing instrument. Many of you have had pedagogy, some of you haven't. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts. We're just going to talk basically about it. And then the risk factors, singing in a choir, about vocal warm-ups and warming down, what they are, why do them, how to sing well within the group, how to learn music during rehearsal, the vibrato straight tone controversy, what to do with that, vocabulary to tweak when you're presented with words that sound like makes you want to push or something, and then your questions, and I have a short list of sample resources at the end. So this instrument that we have is incredible. We do so many things with it. We express everything with it. We speak, we sing, we whimper, cry, laugh, yell, scream, all of it we use as voice. And so for this, we need to be really taking care of it and making sure that we get the sleep, the nutrition, the hydration, physical exercise to really keep your lungs healthy as well, and to know what those muscles are that help us support the voice. Stretching the body, all those good things we need to do. Those are real things that you hear about, and they're very important. And all of this I want you to think about in terms of how to use it to your benefit in a choral setting. And then you have the basics for best health and sound. This is important. Know when to stop singing. The question you could ask yourself is, could I sing well for another 15 minutes? Or am I at the end? If you're at the end, you've sung too much. And the next day you'll pay for it. Your voice will be tired. It will feel thick. It won't feel vibrant and easy. So pay attention to your body and stop, do a short warm down when you feel like you could still sing. This one is something I got from a teacher of mine some years ago. Remain within your best self when you sing. She would say, Freda, bleib bei dir selber, which means, Freda, stay within yourself. So don't go searching out here for sound. In other words, find your alignment, know what that is, your release, your relaxation, and energy. Such great advice. And so for those things, simple things, seemingly simple things that we forget, again, in a choral setting, what is our alignment? What does that mean, to be aligned? In a big setting with other singers right around you. What am I doing with my breath? Am I really doing what I need to do? Am I exhaling? Am I inhaling? Am I using my air? When conductors ask you for certain things, when you're standing next to singers who don't sing like you do, who have a very different sound, we can get very tight with our articulators. So just really staying in tune with who you are, what is your best self. One thing we tend to forget as singers in this big setting is that the throat needs to be relaxed. And when we go to sing certain things with a conductor who's like asking for things to be louder, more vibrant, we can kind of get tight here, already on the inhalation. So these are, again, seemingly small things. They're huge in terms of the long haul in a choral setting. And certainly always to bring your imagination, creativity, and energy to rehearsal, to any kind of rehearsal. Because if we're feeling tired, that's true, we can be tired. We can feel like, I don't want to be at that rehearsal. I'd rather be doing something else. But already that mindset is negative, and it affects how we use this whole body for making music, for discovering language, ideas, and colors. So to really pull yourself together and take a breath and say, okay, this is a time for me to practice being my best self as a singer. This is an opportunity in choir to find out what that means for you. Because oftentimes you might be singing 4 to 6 hours a week in a choir. Well, that might match or be half of what you do in your own practice. So we'll keep talking about this. But this amazing instrument needs us to really be in tune with it in a choral setting. So here are some risk factors. So of course we want to know what they are and get rid of them as best we can, to be aware of them. Now we have a violist here. Hannah plays viola, she shared with me. Instrumentalists, and my family has many instrumentalists in it, they are very careful how they take care of those instruments. They wouldn't leave, I always think, they wouldn't leave it out in the rain. They're not going to bend their bow They're not going to do something strange, like they're not going to bite on the reed and kind of crack the reed. They're going to take care of it. They're going to put it away when they need to, swab it out, put it away, and protect it. Well, we use our voices for everything, basically, and we can scream, we can get very excited in a loud setting with ambient noise, which, by the way, a choir is a loud setting with ambient noise, meaning all these other singers making sound. So knowing how to deal with that. And when to rest, nourish, pack up the voice like an instrumentalist does, and just avoid misuse. Sometimes you might have to be quiet for a day if your voice is feeling stressed. So the risk factors in a choral setting specifically, always the hydration. So not just 10 minutes before you get to choir, but at least an hour. Let it get into your system. Give your body the chance to take that hydration and put it to good use for your vocal folds to stay moist so they can vibrate well. You probably all already know that. Singing without warming up. Well, sometimes you can feel like you fall out of bed and your voice is there. That's a glorious day. They don't happen all that often, and even so, I would posit that it is important to warm up because you check in with your alignment, you check in with your body energy, you warm up the muscles, which brings blood to the muscles and really helps them function well without injury. So we're going to talk about warm-ups with that in mind too. It's really easy not to do a warm down, and sometimes choir directors just don't, and I understand that. But you need to do it on your way out the room, maybe some easy humming, mid-voice, something that just kind of gets you back to yourself in a good way. And over-singing with high levels of breath pressure, pressed phonation is tempting in this setting with all that ambient noise. That will add pressure to the vocal folds, and it's hard to get that vibrant, spinning, beautiful sound you want and work so hard for otherwise. Why sacrifice that in that setting? So that's basically what I'm getting at here. If you are over singing or under singing because you don't want to be there, well, that you might have a breathy sound, you might have intonation issues, lack of resonance, and that is tiring on the voice too. I have a slide towards the end about tweaking the vocabulary, because sometimes conductors will ask you to less, don't sing out, which could lead to some of this under-singing. Singing non-vibrato without instruction, I've got a whole slide on that, or half a slide, so we'll talk about that. This is always something to keep in mind. Am I singing too high, too loud, for too long? That is going to just make me exhausted. And so, in a choral setting, if your conductor is asking for, and if this setting is such that you are singing very vibrantly and loudly for a long period of time in a tessitura that is tiring for your voice, that is challenging, because you really can't say in the midst of it all, hey, you're doing that for too long. But you can have a conversation after that rehearsal. You can do what you can to take care of yourself. So you want to just be your best self, and I've added some other things here towards the end of the slide with the tessitura and range. In the rehearsal space, can you see the conductor? Now here, you probably can see the conductor when you're not on Zoom in a room together. But if you're not, if you have a large group and it's hard to see, or you don't have the physical space around you to feel like you're open, try to seek that out so you don't feel like you're this way with your body. Because you'll be this way with your pharynx and with your resonance and with your breath. All right. So we are vocal athletes, and I'm sure many of you think of yourselves that way, which is good. These little muscles, which are very small, 5-layered structure, they do amazing work for us. They stretch, they relax, they vibrate 440 times a second when we're singing A440, A4 on the staff. Sopranos sing 1,000 times a second. Those vocal folds are vibrating, which is kind of hard to wrap your mind around, but all of that contact really necessitates that we don't overwork them, we don't add too much pressure, we're conscious of breath flow, and that we're hydrated. And these things are our responsibility in a group where you are your own best teacher in that sense. So it takes that kind of commitment and knowledge to really do that, and reminder notes perhaps for yourself. So these routines to warm up your body, to really warm up the muscles, to stretch, to find your best self, whatever that might be for you, and build the skills of breath management and articulatory freedom so that the jaw's not tight as you're trying to sing certain parts of your range. I hope I'm making sense to some of you. These are some of the things that I really suffered from. And then, of course, working from your strengths, not to think, oh, this vowel sucks. I hate my E vowel. I think I'll practice it first. No, why do that? Practice the good vowels, the vowels that feel good. Let them help the vowels that need that help. So much more efficient and helpful for your instrument. So we do a variety of kinds of vocal exercises to warm up, something we call calisthenics, which really build flexibility, intervallic work, using chest, mixed, and head voice, knowing what that is for yourself. So all those me, me, ma, mo, moo, arpeggios, simple 1-3-1 glides, anything like that. But there are these isometrics that some of you may not know about. They really can improve vocal fold function, and one can have a sense of, oh, that is my piano singing. Really, when I started doing them, I discovered, oh my gosh, I can be resonant on my breath and sing piano with these, and it's very easy. So I can send those out and let you know just what those are. There are a series of exercises that are very simple to do. They really help the vocal folds function well. They help us be aware of our breath flow and really improve efficiency. These two people really developed them, Barnes and Stemple. So even if you were to say vocal function exercises and put in Stemple, these will come right up on the screen. They're fantastic. So as you prepare for choral rehearsals, I said already, and you're going to see on several of these slides, hydrate ahead of time. Warm up your voice. Know what it means to be connected to your voice and your air. What is your resonance? Because when you get in choir, you may well be asked to blend. You may well be asked for just tall vowels, and you might lose yourself, become muffled or strident or something that just doesn't feel right. And then it's hard to kind of dig yourself out of that hole. So find yourself first. This avoid searching for notes. I've got a slide about learning music, spending the time outside of rehearsal and knowing what the music is, how to read the text and rhythm and tempo apart from the music. These things just help you stay with your best self as you rehearse in choir. All right. Now I don't know how to get rid of this so you can see what's underneath there. Let's see. Is there any way? I don't know if there is. You all can't see under practice your music outside of rehearsal. Julia, can you see what's below that? You can see it? Oh, good. Okay, great. Fantastic. Just I can't see it, but I know what it is. All right. There it is. Okay. All right, here's the next thing about warming up and warming down. This is really the conductor's job to help you warm up well, to be thoughtful about it, to devise exercises. I can't tell you what they are because this would be individual to conductors, but to check in with certain things. It's helpful to do that warm up just so that you're with the group, you're making your sound as long as you have warmed up beforehand and really found your voice. Otherwise, you're going to be not hearing yourself, not really feeling yourself, and it could be less than satisfactory and actually tiring. So whatever the conductor decides to do and teach you in that moment should instill best practices for these very things that I'm mentioning. And to keep in mind, if you're going to be a conductor, the power and communication of gestures, your words, your attitudes, the sound of your voice when you are talking with the choir can elicit certain responses. That's very powerful to know and to practice. So here we are with some things that a conductor would probably do in the space of 5 to 10 minutes that you have to warm up. There are exercises that can quickly get to these things, and on any given day, he or she might decide to do certain of them depending on the repertoire. As you can imagine, some of these, such as the consonants, with a hand on your gut just to see what is my breath doing without pushing or pulling it. What do I do there to pronounce these consonants can help you build awareness of your breath management in any case. I want to talk a little bit about these tongue release exercises. Humming can already be a tongue release as long as you're aware that the tongue is just kind of resting in the mouth. I love these. They've been very helpful, and I would imagine in a choir setting they could be super helpful. A tongue hum, where you allow the tongue to kind of slide out of your mouth between your lips, so it's not a tight tongue that you're sticking out, it's just allowed to release. Something like that. Aware that the whole length of it is released. So much of what we need to do in singing and in the choir is to find our energized, relaxed self for our best sound. The lip hum, which is same thing as the tongue hum, however you want to think about that, NG or chewing hum, really helpful. Great. So now when you're in the choir, I've already mentioned several things about staying within yourself, knowing who you are before you get to the group, knowing what you feel when you sing. You know, you can't always, solo singers cannot rely on acoustics around you. That live space that feels so good to sing in, it's not always going to be there for us, as we know. It's good to practice sometimes in a muffled space, because that's going to be your concert hall at some point. That's going to be your recital hall, and it's going to feel terrible. But you have to rely on what you know it should feel like inside, rather than relying on what you hear around you. So knowing what that is helpful in this choir setting, because you attain your best self in that instant. Apply Beck's practice. Yeah, am I relaxed, as I just mentioned? Is my throat relaxed and generous for my sound? Or am I trying to sing that high note because I see a gesture like this? Or I don't think I can hit it, and I haven't practiced it, so I better just go for it. Well, at your peril, really. I don't mean to be alarmist about this, but I've been there so many times. It's just, you don't want to do that to yourself. You want to get out of choir rehearsal and feel like, I could sing a concert tonight. I would know how to do that. I can go to my lesson and feel refreshed. So how can I get to the end of the day feeling as fresh as possible? And when and how long will I sing today? Am I going to sing for 2 hours before choir rehearsal because I know after choir rehearsal I won't feel like doing so? It's not the smartest thing unless you've got really strong vocal folds that can do this well. Some people just, I always like to think that they've got vocal folds of steel or something. They're able to just do this thing. But that's not the norm, especially as you're learning to do what you do. So really planning your day appropriately so that when you go to rehearsal, during rehearsal, and after rehearsal, you haven't given everything up. You still have something there to express. You have some creativity and energy for your own practice or for your lesson. All right. This I could sing higher, louder, longer. I put it in again on purpose because it's so easy to forget. So I can't see all of you on the screen, but I would want to ask you how many of you have, when trying to work out your high notes, sung them over and over again, and on the forte side of dynamics, which is something to explore, but it encourages high pressure, high vocal fold energy, and learning how to sing it softer and sweetly is so important. Yeah. So these things in the rehearsal, when you are being stressed out, singing that piece, tessitura is too high, or it's just too loud, or you're getting tired for whatever reason, something you can do for yourself is to really check in with your body, because in those instances, probably what has happened, I would venture to say, shoulders have become tight, the pharynx space has become restricted or tight, the tongue may have worked too hard. I mean, am I truly breathing with an open throat? Am I releasing my abs to welcome the breath in low, or am I loud and high with my breath, which happens so easily? Especially, again, if a conductor is asking you for energy this way, it's really, we kind of mime what we see in that instance because you're empathetic musicians. it takes a lot of wherewithal to just stay within yourself and say, I'm going to breathe here and put the energy into my open, ready instrument, rather than showing the conductor, I'm here. So you can exhale. Often we think, inhale, exhale, get rid of your air, feel where it's coming from in your gut, and then release, and the air just goes in. You don't have to breathe, pull that air in. It doesn't happen that way. It's really going to go in where it needs to go. It'll fill a vacuum, so simple. And yawn. Just go ahead. If your throat is feeling tight, something like that, you can even stifle a yawn and stretch your body as best you can, even a sideways kind of rib stretch, bend your knees, things that, okay, I'm back to myself now after having gone out of myself. And know when not to sing. I think it's hard sometimes for singers to be bold enough to tell the conductor, I'm not singing today, I'm sorry, I won't be singing today, I'm ill, I have terrible allergies, or my voice is exhausted, I just simply cannot. I will be sitting in rehearsal with my pencil out, and I will be with you in spirit and mind, but I won't be able to sing. And then you do just that. You're the most attentive person in the room, and you show that you are. And you can hiss with that choir, you can kind of work on the phrasing in that way, you don't just check out. But that's really important to do if you need to talk to your teacher or mentor about this before you go, if you need some advice on how to do that. I often tell my students, when I know that they're tired and they're going to rehearsal, don't sing. And if you need me to say something, and I have written to the conductors on occasion and said, so-and-so is really exhausted vocally. I've advised him or her not to sing. They will be there, but they're not able to participate. Thank you for your understanding. And they understand. And if they don't, you let your teacher know. You do not sing. No one knows what it feels like to sing in your body with your instrument but you, nobody. You're the only one who knows what that is. And so you have to be the boss of it. This is the point at which I wanted to say, it's going to be a rare conductor or director of a program that comes up and says, you know what, you sound tired, or are you tired? Please take it easy today. You don't need to sing. Sometimes they'll do that. And that's wonderful. But you need to be in charge of that and feel emboldened and powerful to do that. Your voice needs you to do that. I mean, it's like if you played an instrument and your bow strings were all a mess, and you just, I mean, it was just a complete mess, and you couldn't repair it, and that you're going to have to go play a solo or something. I mean, you just wouldn't be able, you'd borrow a bowl probably, do something, but there's certain instances in which you just can't make music. That's just the way it is. You'll be better the next day. All right, so for the conductors, singing healthfully in a choir, how do they help us? Well, hopefully they know how the instrument works. They acquire that knowledge. I mean, there will be times when you sing with an instrumental conductor, right? That happens, and we're lucky to have Professor Kiesler because he also sings. But you might not know that. He's quite a good singer and understands what that is. But oftentimes they won't, and so they'll treat you like instruments, which you are. But there's a whole different kind of gesture language and everything that goes on there. So it's helpful if conductors know basics about how the voice works with breath pressure and flow, how the articulators work, how we shape vowels and sound and colors above the throat, that the vocal folds are simply small little muscles that vibrate pitch and overtones, and without a head and neck, it would sound like, that's what it sounds like. When we add a shape to it, certain overtones are then enlivened. They're successful traveling through that bottle shape, shall we say, and then you get a vowel, you get color. So really what we do here, so I talk so much about keeping the throat relaxed and being able to shape things accordingly. For a conductor to know this basic stuff is really helpful. And the helpful vocabulary and gestures, and they demonstrate and lead by example, absolutely, with even how they talk and the kinds of gestures they use and the kinds of sounds they're asking for. We'll get to some of those things in a bit. to schedule breaks in the rehearsal. So if you've got a 2-hour rehearsal in choir, you come warmed up, and let's say sometimes in rehearsal a certain section won't be singing that much, so it's not that dire a situation. But if everyone's pretty involved singing some 4-part, 8-part music, and you're pretty responsible for the rehearsal, would be really good. The conductor would do well to schedule a few breaks in there, and then the singers would do well to heed that as a break and not a time to chat with people, but to really be silent, do some stretching, things that you know work for your voice to kind of calm things down and get you back to zero in a way. And then the conductors, of course, are observing the choir. I mean, I hope so, right? How are they breathing in? Are they like this? I'm asking for the wrong thing. If I'm the conductor, I'm thinking, okay, I need to rethink this because that's not helpful. How are they holding the music? Is it like this? They're looking down. Is it like this? Are they reaching up and out with themselves? I often like to say, take your music notebook and just rest it on your abs with your hands here at the top of it, and that will rest it on your abs without tensing up your shoulders. It will rest on your abs, and then you can breathe to your abs. You just breathe out, breathe in from there. If you know the music well enough to do that a bit, to check in with your body again. Super, super helpful. Or if you can't, you need the music here. One hand down there to feel, am I exhaling? Am I then releasing to inhale? Or am I tight? Tight as a drum there, which is not going to help. So are their shoulders relaxed? Because if the shoulders aren't relaxed and they're raising their chin, the pharynx is tight, the throat is tight, the sound is going to be shrill, tight, white, not going to be what you want. So those things are terribly important for the conductor to help the singers with. So sight reading, first of all, learn how to sight read. That's so important. Get a working knowledge of what that means for you, to look at the page and say, okay, it's in 3/4. The key signature is this. Is it major or minor? Get a sense for it. Take a look at the direction of your line. See quickly where it lines up with others, where you might have unison with other parts. That can take a minute to think about those things, just to get your head in it really quickly. And then to mindfully know what these intervals are for you. That just takes practice on your own. I wouldn't expect the conductor to teach me all about that because you don't have time. And otherwise you'd be searching for notes here and for words here, and then you will be off your breath, as we say. You'll be out of your voice and in your throat and frustrated. So these are just some ideas. There are many ways to go about learning your music. These are very quick little ways to do it. One of 25 suggestions that you could have for how to learn your music. It is important when you're reading music in rehearsal to stay grounded, relaxed, open. Look ahead in the music when you're able to. Breathe, listen, and you keep your inner pulse so that you're not kind of guessing what the rhythm is. This is what it is. It's pretty easy. But certainly reading and knowing rhythmic pulse in your body, subdivision. These things are basic musicianship skills that sometimes we forget as singers. We're all about making a sound, but the sound is nothing without the spirit behind it, and the spirit is there because of the text and the music and what it does to your heart and what you want to express in a choral setting or as a solo singer. So it's really important. And conductors. Developing ways to help the learning process. Any choir is going to be different. There'll be at different levels of musicianship and readiness to do this. So having sectionals or having a section sing by themselves. In my choir in undergrad, it was a 40-voice choir, and the conductor would come in and say, Herseth, sing your line. First of all, I was an alto who was put in second soprano, and he knew what he was doing. I just had never done it before. I was singing tenor and second alto in high school. Nerve-wracking as a freshman with all these great singers around me. But I learned pretty quickly, you better come into that rehearsal knowing your music, or you'll be embarrassed. And you'll be singing from here because you won't know what you're doing. So really, conductors can help their students develop this. It's not that hard, it just takes some thought and organization. Here we go. So, now vibrato is a naturally occurring thing in the voice. For the singing we do, it is healthy. You have good breath flow. It's an oscillation in pitch, yes, but it happens so naturally, we're not aware of it, and usually if we have a pitch here and the oscillation is even on both sides of the pitch, right, that you have up and down around the pitch, it's even and pleasing, then it's healthy. We work so hard to do this very thing, to free up the instrument, to energize what needs to be energized, to free up what needs to be free so that we can have ping, resonance, warmth in the voice, opulence, different colors. And that necessitates a kind of release with your articulators and lips even, right? So we're not kind of tight with our lips. So when we sing with vibrato classically, the larynx is slightly lowered. We don't need to think lower the larynx because that will muffle the sound, but it kind of hangs in there. The larynx is free floating in the neck. It's not directly attached to any other bone. It's like in a sling with muscles above and below, and that's very handy. So we just need to release it. So we release the swallowing muscles. We release any kinds of tension fraught sound or approach so that it can just be there and our sound can vibrate freely. So it's when we go to the perils of straight tone, as I say, leading to fatigue. So you will all sing in choirs that where you're asked to sing straight tone or off the voice, as some people say. And that can be very frustrating because it's not what you're learning how to do, but there are ways to do it more healthfully than not. So if you're not instructed how, you might just kind of straighten out your sound. Now, I'm going to straighten my sound. Well, what can happen there, and I'm sure you've experienced this, is that you hold your throat tense because of it. So the larynx can rise, the throat shrinks, we don't use adequate breath flow, and we might increase the breath pressure to kind of hold it steady. Well, these very things I'm mentioning are anathema to healthy singing. So to be aware of that and informed about it and to try it out, these things, best practice for vibrato-less singing, I'll call it vibrato-less rather than straight tone because that can get us into trouble. So we do the very things that we do the opposite of the very things that we might more easily do, such as holding the throat, thinking of straight tone, whitening the sound, restricting the vowel space, using less breath flow, using more breath pressure. So releasing the throat and the articulate, being mindful, I am not going to sacrifice my released available house for singing here, my breath flow that I need. So we find actually that releasing the throat and articulators, using more space, generous airflow, you can sing more healthfully with vibrato-less singing. So the very things that you think that you would normally take away thinking straight tone, you don't do that. You give it more generous space, a little more airflow, a little more heady feel, and I'm not saying you want to do this all day long, but it can help a great deal. So if you're asked for straight tone, think vibrato less, maybe think sweet. You can think certain words, and conductors I think should use words like this. Why vibrato less? Well, I would like this kind of sound, this kind of feel, amazing, heavenly, or it might not be what how you define heavenly or amazing, but words that get you out of your brain about this and into your more available space, available breath flow. If you have questions about this, please let me know. In fact, if you have questions about any of this, if I'm going too fast, I'm just mindful of the time and what I would like to impart to you. So please let me know if you have any questions. Questions are good. Hold me accountable, please. All right. So here is some vocabulary to tweak, perhaps, right? So these are things, I asked my students about this just today, and I had some of these already there because I'd asked some other people about it. So these are the things you might hear in rehearsal. You'll hear many wonderful things. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is how to keep healthy. And so when you hear words, vocabulary, or you see gestures that make you kind of cringe or tighten up, how to interpret that for yourself so that you stay within yourself, as I mentioned on one of my first slides, and you remain your best self. So off the voice, what are they getting at there? Do they want a lighter sound? Do they want a sweeter sound? Do they want a more supplicant sound? I mean, to really think, what are some other words that this text might help me get to, rather than off the voice? Or louder, louder, more opulent, more vivacious, deeper in my core. I mean, there are a lot of ways we can think about that. Straight tone we just talked about, vibrato less, or incredulous. A lot of words are very powerful. So I think vocabulary and gestures, getting back to that, is they're so powerful in this instance. Thinner, a thinner sound. This one just came up today, a thinner sound. Well, how am I going to interpret that with my voice where I want to stay? So it might be a lighter sound, it might be a less operatic sound, more folksy sound, more, a lighter sound rather than thinner, more forward. Well, there's only so far forward our voices can go. Usually when it feels good, it's out here somewhere, right? So forcing it forward, if you feel like your voice is here, but they're asking for more forward, you might I can imagine cutting off this part of my instrument and just going here. And then that would make me tight here and would make me tight in my breath. So I would need to think in my hum space, in my NG space, in my hum space, in my inner smile, something like that, to get the kind of color I think the conductor's getting at. Palm gesture to sing softer. Oh, that one's shocking, right? You're singing, you see this. It's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Perhaps a more playful sound, perhaps a lighter sound, perhaps a jazzier sound, something that gets you away from, and maybe you have been pressing too much. So maybe there's a reason the conductor is asking for that. Maybe take that palm and put it here. So you see this? Go like this instead of that. Blend, right? Don't be yourself. Blend. But then who's you're blending with? What's the blend? Who's leading the blend? That's a hard one, because I can see why conductors don't want voices sticking out, because then, soprano section, listen to so-and-so, it's really her solo here. Well, that's not helpful, right, to have that. But maybe other people need to step up a bit while that person steps back a bit. So it's not because so-and-so has a huge voice. It could be. But there are ways to deal with that, rather than telling someone to sing off the voice. Give them a reason to sing softer on the breath with their vibrancy. And tall vowels, oftentimes choral conductors will ask for tall vowels. Well, I think when they're asked for that, isn't it such that they're looking for an ethereal, kind of unified sound? So you could think about that. I mean, really, there are ways around this all the time. A tall vowel doesn't mean hollow. It can turn hollow. This is the thing. It can turn muffled, because getting to a tall vowel, we might suck everything back. So then you might hear tall vowels, no, more forward. And it's like, where am I? Forward, back? I don't know. Raise your eyebrows. Let me see that you're really getting that pitch. Sing from your diaphragm. Well, of course, we breathe. The diaphragm is our breathing muscle. We have no volitional control over it. So this is the thing. You can't feel it in your body like I can feel my fingers moving. I can move my lips. I can't say, diaphragm, do this or that. It's just not possible. So we have to work with what we have, which are the ribs, which are connected to your sternum and your backbone. The diaphragm is connected to the ribs, sternum, and diaphragm. Okay, backbone. These three bony structures. So, my posture is important here. I need to release my ribs when I breathe in so they can they can expand, which helps steady the ascent of the diaphragm with my abs as I sing. So if someone's asking you to sing from your diaphragm, they're probably feeling like you're not supporting or don't have the breath under you. So to know what that is, the front of the body, the abdomen, where your belly button's there and you can put your hand on the front of your body, that's not the diaphragm. Those are the abdominal muscles. Diaphragm's in there, cuts across the body this way, as you know. Goes down when you breathe in, and that's this contraction, and it slowly gives that up as we sing. And we need to keep the house open so that it doesn't just pop right up and then shove all the air out. If, as the diaphragm comes up, the air is out of the body. So what else? What words elicit a negative response from you? Are there others that I haven't thought about? No? Okay. So your responsibility and goal for your voice and well-being is really to consider how to translate these words for you with your best technique. And to really, as I said already 3 times, remain your best self. Remain within yourself. Don't go searching for things outside. So you kind of search for notes and things. And then to really, talk with your teacher or mentor about how to do this. If you're having trouble with it, write down the word that gives you trouble, and then go into your lesson or contact your teacher and say, I was asked to do this, we were asked to do this. I don't understand what that is. How can I do that technically with my voice so that I don't tire and I feel good about it? Great. All right. Hollow sound. So this kind of goes towards like the taller vowel, the hollow sound. Someone mentioned to me that they've been asked to do that. And I guess I would think spooky. I would think some kind of emotion or thought that necessitates it. So it's not something I'm putting onto my instrument, but it's something that I feel expressively connected to. Because we sing with all kinds of colors. I'm telling you, it's not just one classical sound. I mean, it's not like one color. We sing with many colors, depending on the text and music, definitely. And that's fun, that's creative, it's imaginative, it's energizing for the voice and body. So something like hollow sound might throw me for a loop to begin with, but then I'd have to think, okay, amazing. Jaw opens up or something. I get my soft palate kind of, many ways to do that. All right, so here are some sample resources for you. These are great. There are many, many more, but these are some that I dearly love. The first one by Julia Davids. I wish I could remember her maiden name. She went to school here some years ago. I think she was in my pedagogy class, and she's fantastic. And this book is really fantastic because it really is for conductors, teachers, and singers about singing in a choir, choral setting, and ways to go about working with it. Choral Therapies by uncle of mine, Lloyd Fouch, who conducted lots of choirs. And there's another one by him. He passed away some years ago, but wonderful, smart man, and really very good ideas from him, I have to say. This next one, Vocal Health and Pedagogy by Robert Sadaloff, Dr. Sadaloff. Just so you know, he is in charge of he's director of the Voice Foundation. Just to mention this too, if you're interested in voice science and all things to do with performing voice and speaking voice, they have the International Voice Foundation has a symposium every year in Philadelphia, which is where they're based, and people come from all over the world. I've gone twice, 3 times, and it has been really fun. You meet all kinds of people. I've presented there a few times. They have master classes and talks and things, so it's really wonderful. And this book is fantastic. He has experts talking about all kinds of things in there. There's a chapter on vocal health in the choir. It's a short chapter, much less detailed than what I gave, but kind of an overview of some things. This next one, Your Voice and Inside View by Scott McCoy, is just wonderful for so many reasons. You can learn a lot about the acoustics of the singing voice, for example, about vowels and breath support and how important they are. And this last one, I just love all these books, and there's a great variety of information here. A Systematic Approach to Voice by Kari Reagan, who's a voice teacher, singer, and like me, a voice training specialist out in Seattle. And she's got all kinds of ideas for using tools, for finding your core when you sing, and for staying refreshed and open. So I wanted you to know about these resources. And if you need more, please don't hesitate to contact me. I've got 100. So this is the end of our talk.